Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Sci-Fi Sunday on this channel where we talk about something sci-fi related. And today we have to do our non-spoiler review of Rebel Moon and let you know what we think of it. So let's jump right into it. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon has hit Netflix. It originally started its life as a Star Wars sequel, as his answer to the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Now, here's the thing about that. That is very noticeable throughout the film. It is definitely noticeable. You are going to notice it every time you don't think you will, you will. That's probably the biggest part of this film that it has as a challenge, is that it's going to be very comparable to Star Wars. And even in some ways, in some small ways, you can see where the beginnings of a script that would ultimately become The Force Awakens were there. Now, he has rewritten enough of this to bring it into his own toy box, to bring it into his own little world. And that's a good thing, because if he hadn't done that, this movie wouldn't be what it is. And what it is fun. I didn't think I would go in liking this movie nearly as much as I liked it. Now, it does have a lot of things wrong with it, and we will get into that a little bit without giving you any spoilers. Basically, the movie, to me, reminded me a lot of his older work, which is why it maybe had this sort of vibe that made me want to like it a little more than I thought I would. For me, it felt like Sucker Punch. And that was one of my personal favorite Zack Snyder films, and it's not a lot of people's favorites. A lot of people really didn't like that movie at all, and I actually found it to be quite fun. And the outfits in this movie don't quite match. Basically, in this movie, they have outfits you can buy fairly easily, and then they have outfits that look like they belong in Star Wars. And then the enemies, we have to talk about their outfits as well, because the enemies' outfits very much resemble World War II, which we know Star Wars very much had the stormtroopers and their behavior, and the whole empire was very much modeled after the German soldiers in World War II. It was kind of very much that way. And this movie kind of leans into that. But that's another reason it reminds me of Sucker Punch, because the movie Sucker Punch had that type of vibe. It had the World War II-esque vibes to it. And when you're dealing with anything that's World War I, World War II, there is a certain kind of outfit you've grown to expect, and these outfits very much resemble those. So the bad guys seem directly out of history, and that's a bit jarring at times as well. Also, I didn't like the villains that much. I didn't find any sort of redeeming quality that makes me think they're going to be anything other than a two-dimensional villain. And that worries me a little bit. There are some villains in this movie that are cool. Don't get me wrong. They're evil. And evil is gonna make the heroes go after them that much more, and that's not a bad thing for the movie. The good villains always think of themselves as the good guys, even when they're not. And I can't justify how the villains in this movie think of themselves as good guys. But the script works overall anyway. The story works overall anyway. The lightsabers, let's talk about these swords. I've heard people actually defending these swords and saying that the swords are not lightsabers. When you look at this movie, yeah, they're not lightsabers. But what comes to mind? Lightsabers. So let's call it what it is. This movie started its life as a Star Wars movie, and that is very much still within it. Granted, it's in its own universe. It does it quite well at that and has room to grow. It has a lot of adult themes, so it's not one you want to take your kids to see. It's not one you want your kids looking at and watching. This is meant for mature audiences. And granted, right now they have a PG-13 version, but he's already said he's going to do a director's cut, and I can only imagine that that's going to have more adult themes in it. Already you're dealing with partial nudity and a bunch of other things, and it's just not what you would expect of a Star Wars film, so I have to assume this is stuff he added in afterwards and not how his original Star Wars script was going to go. Otherwise, I can definitely see where they were coming from in denying him this. The movie moves as slow as the first Star Wars film and as slow as The Force Awakens. It really does. It moves as slow as those two films. And so if you're looking at it to be some majorly action-packed movie, yeah, it has some majorly action-packed things. And there are several scenes in the movie where it brought to mind scenes from the original Star Wars or scenes from The Force Awakens. So yes, there are some of those times when you're looking at this movie and you're saying, oh, I get it. Yeah. And I think that only hurts the movie a little bit because the movie does survive it. You might find after you watch it that you don't hate yourself. You actually enjoyed it. And that's what good film does. You may not have high expectations going in, but if you go in and you find something enjoyable about the film, then it did its job. And this movie does its job. Then you also have the fact that this is part of a 3-movie deal. This movie's supposed to have 3 movies, and this is only part 1. And we're going to get the director's cut before part 2 drops, a little bit before part 2 drops, just to kind of build up that hype for the second one. I think that's a good idea. We'll have to see where this project goes, because if it dives into more of an original territory for Zack Snyder, it feels more like his own playground in the second and third entries, I could see this doing quite well. But if we get to the point where we're just seeing Star Wars every time we look at it, then I could see it actually hurting the film franchise as a whole and making it not really that well received. But we'll have to see where it goes. The droids are cool in the movie when you do see robots, droids. The ships are cool. And the fighting scenes that you get in the movie are pretty awesome. Overall, I give the movie 3 stars, and it would get higher if I could get out of that feeling like it was Star Wars. But I want to know what you guys think. As always, we want to know what you guys think. Make sure you're leaving us a comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think. Make sure you share this video with all of your friends so they can be a part of the conversation as well. Make sure you hit that like button. It's free. It helps the channel. We appreciate it. And then Miko says we need more subscribers. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. And friends, at the end of the day, I know, you know, and Miko knows that fandom is family.